Hello everybody, it's Foxy speaking, and this is another episode of Foxy's Fun Inspirational Chats, and today I will be your host. This episode is about a man who is now retired and lives over in Lincolnshire in England. His name was Mr. Cuthbert Tanfield. Quite lonely, unfortunately, as he lives on his own, as he never married and never had children. He lives in a house, only a 3-bedroom cottage in Lincolnshire, in a very pretty little village in Lincolnshire. Luckily he's not too far from the bus stop and is able to get the bus to whenever he needs to go into like large towns or anything. And luckily he has shops nearby so that he can walk to get his food and back. But there were some sad stories in Mr. Tanfield's lifetime. When he was a young man, he very, very sadly lost his one and only younger brother in a motorbike accident. His younger brother only lived to be 18, but he said what was worse was seeing his parents so heartbroken, and he himself was obviously incredibly upset when it happened. And so, and then within about 10 years his father went. Then after going through what his mother had been through, to losing her husband less than 10 years after losing her son, he moved in to live with his mother, and which the cottage used to be his mother's cottage, and where he grew up in as a child. And he stayed living with his mother until she died at the age of 88. And following, when his mother was 88, he was 62. So after his mother died, he continued to just live in a cottage. And when he was 65, he retired from work. And now, about 12 years later, flashback set in 2017, he is now a mere 80 years of age. Mr. Cuthbert Tanfield is becoming, really, as quite an elderly man, he's feeling the pain of loneliness. One morning, it was the morning of a nice summer of 2017, Cuthbert Tanfield woke up as the sunshine shone through the net curtains of his cottage, and the sunshine rays began beaming towards him. As the sun rays beamed towards him, he began to smile as he was slowly waking up. He slowly got out of bed, stretched till his back cracked, which the pain eased off almost instantly after, and slowly walked to the bathroom to take a shower. After subsequently getting into the shower and getting out of the shower following a nice warm wash, he cleaned his teeth and rinsed his mouth and got himself dressed and went down to make his breakfast. The breakfast he had every morning was boiled egg and soldiers. He'd been eating it all his adult life every morning before breakfast. Boiled egg and soldiers. And after he'd finished his breakfast, he put the telly on to watch the news. And then after about 30 odd minutes of watching the news, he turned the telly off and put on his jacket and went out to walk to the bus stop. As he walked to the bus stop, he checked the timetable to check the bus times for the bus that goes into the town. Before long the bus arrived, and Cuthbert Tanfield stepped on the bus, showed his bus pass to the driver, and off he went. The bus was a bit quicker than expected, but was packed with visitors as it was the tourist season of the summer in England. As the bus drove and drove towards the town centre, Cuthbert Tanfield overlooked the pretty views from the bus window as the sunshine shone upon it whilst on the bus route. Before long, the bus had arrived into town, and Cuthbert Tanfield went to the shops. With a wheel basket in his left hand, and his right arm and hand not holding anything, he walked into the shopping centre to look around for anything he needed to get. In the shopping centre it was reasonably busy, especially as it was a Saturday morning in the shopping centre. He went into one of the shops and he bought himself 3 new pairs of shirts, nice new pair of trousers, nice types of socks as he was into style, a new jumper, a new cardigan, and also a new suit. Having paid for all that, he put them in his basket, and then he went to get some, and then he walked over to the cafe for a cup of coffee and a cake, from which he had a nice coffee and a cake in the cafe. And once that was done, he walked out of town and got on the bus and went back home. And after he went back home, he relaxed in his armchair in his home and did a crossword puzzle, from which he had been doing for quite a long time in his life, crossword puzzles, which kept his brain sharp as well as being a voracious reader. Once that was all done, he went to his local shops to buy his food. Once all that was done, he went back home and put on a DVD and put the telly on, put a DVD in and just watched a film, which he quite liked. And once the film had finished, he cooked up his dinner, and then he turned on the telly to watch the evening news. And once the evening news was over, he put on a television show he quite liked to watch, or what television shows there were on the telly. Once it came to 9 o'clock in the evening, he got himself ready. He went upstairs to get ready for bed. He took off his clothes, put his shirt in the laundry, and put his trousers back in the drawer. Put his trousers on the chair in his bedroom so that he could put them back on again the next day. And he put his pyjamas on, took off his glasses, put on his reading glasses, and began to read a book whilst in bed. Then at about 10 o'clock, 10:15, he put his book down, turned out his lamp, and went peacefully to sleep. It was morning again, and Mr. Cuthbert Tanfield woke up, only to have someone knocking on his door. Still in his pyjamas, he got out of bed and walked down the stairs and opened the door to someone he'd met many times before. "Good morning," said a bright and cheery voice. Mr. Tanfield looked at the young man, looked at the person. There was a young man dressed, wearing an Indiana Jones-like hat and an orange and red coloured coat, with a shirt with his jacket fully zipped up, or the coat, part of his shirt showing, and also you could see a hint of the person's jumper sleeve extending from his coat sleeve, partly, and also dressed in dark trousers and black shoes with tassels on them. I think you're my neighbour. You live on the same street as me. Cuthbert Tanfield just looked at the young man. Oh, I do. Yeah, oh, whoa, my boy, Mr. Tanfield said. I think I may have seen you many times before. And sometimes you say hello to me, and we talked together. I worry about you being lonely, said the young man. I no, really, honestly, I really worry about you being lonely. Well, I know we've been out before a few times, my boy, said Mr. Tanfield to the young man. And it's always so nice of you that you think about me and worry about my loneliness, since I have no nieces and nephews. And obviously all my aunts and uncles are dead, and sadly my 5 older cousins are all dead, very sadly, except for one, but she's lives really a long way from me. And that's exactly why I worry about you, Mr. Tanfield, said the young man. Call me Cuthbert, please, dear boy, said Mr. Tanfield to the man. Cuthbert, sorry, said the young man. I seriously worry about you. Really, I seriously worry about you. And I really hope I can give you all the company you need. If you ever need any company, please let me know. And the young man handed up Mr. Cuthbert a piece of paper with his written phone number on it. Please take it. Mr. Cuthbert picked up the piece of paper. If you ever need me or want me for anything, please give me a ring, and I'll always be happy to give you a visit. And so the young man walked away back home, leaving Mr. Cuthbert standing rather solitary and looking, impaired to speak, just looking and staring at the paper. But he could not read them, as he had not put on his reading glasses, so he put them up close enough to the point where he could see the numbers, reading it carefully, but he could not select the information quickly enough, no matter how closely he put the paper to his eyes. So he gently closed his front door, walked upstairs, and put on his reading glasses. He looked at the phone number, and so he put the phone number in his very little mobile phone, and then he began to ring. Dialing the number, the phone was silent, going brrr, 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 brrr. Oh, hello, said a voice. It was the young man. Hello, my dear boy, Charlie, said, hello, my dear boy, said Mr. Tanfield. It's nice speaking to you. Oh, hello, it's Charlie, said the young man. It's nice speaking to you, Cuthbert. Did you need anything? As a matter of fact, Charlie boy, no, said Mr. Cuthbert. I just wanted to ring to just test your phone number works on my phone. Oh, that's wonderful. It's working absolutely fine, said Charlie in delight. I'm just so elated you've rang me. I'm very happy you're pleased to hear me and that you've got my phone number, said Mr. Tanfield. Please come round any time, said Mr. Tanfield to Charlie. You are more than welcome to come over for lunch or tea any time you like, Charlie boy. And it's so kind that you think about me and that you worry about me for your reasoned purpose. Thanks, Cuthbert, said Charlie happily. I need to go now because I'm going to be meeting up with some friends. We're going to go skateboarding. Goodbye, Cuthbert. And Charlie pressed a touchscreen on his iPhone and respectfully ended the call with Cuthbert Tanfield. Goodbye, Charlie, said Mr. Tanfield, but he had ended the call, and then he looked at his phone and said the call had ended. But nonetheless, he said, "Such a lovely little boy," said Mr. Cuthbert. "Charlie is a fine young boy, and I just wished I'd had him as my grandson." Later on in the day, he got a phone call. The phone call was from Charlie. "Oh, hello," said Mr. Tanfield as he picked up the phone to Charlie. "Charlie, is that you?" "Oh, hello, Cuthbert," said Charlie on the phone. "I've got a surprise for you for tomorrow evening." "Tomorrow?" Cuthbert asked curiously. "What's going to happen tomorrow?" "Tomorrow evening," Charlie said, "please meet me at the pizza restaurant in Skegness." "Pizza restaurant Skegness. OK, I'm going to get the bus down over and I'll meet you there. At what time, say?" 6 p.m. would be a wonderful time, said Charlie to Mr. Tanfield. "OK, Charlie, I shall meet you 6 p.m. tomorrow. What is it?" Charlie smiled. "It's a surprise." And they respectfully ended the calls. The next day, at just before 6 p.m. in the evening, Cuthbert Tanfield, all dressed up, ready to go to the restaurant, got the bus and went to Skegness. There in Skegness, he walked to the pizza restaurant, opened the door, and looked to see that nothing was there. He looked all around until he heard a voice. "Cuthbert," said the voice. It was Charlie. Cuthbert Tanfield looked over to see Charlie and a few friends throwing him a friendly surprise. Cuthbert Tanfield gasped in happiness, overlooking at what was to be, as Charlie had clearly thrown him a nice surprise. He came up close to Charlie, put out his right hand, and shook his hand firmly. "Oh, thank you so much, Charlie, my dear boy," said Cuthbert. "You've arranged all of this for me, and you've thrown me a big surprise." And one of Charlie's friends, looking happily at Mr. Cuthbert, said, "We just want to reduce your loneliness, Miss Cuthbert," said Charlie's friend. And then Charlie's other friend said, "Charlie, my wonderful friend, speaks so highly of you, and he did tell me all about you. And he did tell me about your very sad loss of your younger brother, being your one and only brother." And then his other friend said, "Well, Cuthbert, all of us are here to give you company when you need it. And we are always happy to give you a visit, whether it's either us on our own individually or with our wonderful friend Charlie." Cuthbert Tanfield was so happy a tear rolled from his right eye. He couldn't have felt more thankful to Charlie and his friends. They respectfully had their dinner, but that very night, after the big surprise was thrown towards him, Cuthbert Tanfield closed his eyes and fell happily to sleep, thinking of all the wonderful visits he would sometimes get in the future from Charlie or his friends, and all the valuable time they could spend in his last remaining years of living. The end. Thanks all indeed for watching this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed this story. Please let me know what your thoughts are in the comments down below. And I shall certainly see you in the next video. Bye bye everybody. From Foxy.